Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of Intuitive Angling and burning the midnight oil this week, man. You guys know I'm competing now in the Toyota Series tournament at Lake of the Ozarks. So I've been trying to do these videos whenever I can, you know, in between the tournaments, because I'm driving back and forth from Springfield to Lake of the Ozarks, which is about an hour and a half every morning. So getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning is sort of starting to wear on me a little bit. Today what we're going to talk about is sort of pertinent to what's been going on at Lake of the Ozarks, and that's how to deal with heavy fishing pressure. If you're confronted with that, I'm going to give you guys some tips and advice that might help you guys catch a few more fish anytime you're around a lot of fishing pressure, which seems like we all are anymore. Real quick before we just get started, just want to give you guys a reminder, a couple of housekeeping tips here. If you guys haven't had a chance yet to go over to fishthemoment.com and check out our lake map breakdowns. We got a bunch of new spring map breakdowns on the site. Myself, Matt, Stefan, Johnny are all working on them together. It's a great way to learn more about a lake that you know a little bit about, or if you don't know anything about a lake, it's also a good way to find some good spots. And we also build personal breakdowns specifically to any lake you would like. So you can check that out at fishthemoment.com. And also, if you guys hadn't a chance, go by the Baitworks online store. Check out the blog at Old School Jig, man. We got them up and running now. Everything's good to go on that. You guys can order them there. I'll include the link in the description to both the Baitworks link and Fish the Moment. So much appreciated. Okay, guys, let's talk a little bit about heavy fishing pressure. That was sort of the theme of today, because the first 4 places I went to today, there was a boat sitting on it. I mean, my 4 best places had boats sitting on it. So when you have and I didn't have that many spots, you know, I had 4 of the 6 I had boats sitting on them. So when you have that to deal with right off the bat in the morning, that can really spin you out sometimes if you let it. But what I want to do is I want to give you guys some tips on how to deal and sort of some different approaches that you can use in and around heavy fishing pressure. First of all, a lot of it you have to decide when you determine what is heavy fishing pressure and how much how much fishing pressure a certain area can handle. A lot of it has to do with the type of cover that is in that area. I mean, if you got you know, isolated cover or bare rock banks or something like that that don't have a lot of cover, those areas are not going to be able to sustain heavy fishing pressure. But if you have an area, for example, like in Florida or Texas, where you've got some big offshore grass beds where there's a lot of hiding places for the fish, those areas can absorb a lot of fishing pressure, and sometimes you don't have to leave that. But one of the things I would recommend is, if you're fishing an area where you've got, like, you know, a few laydowns here or just a straight stretch of rocky bank, and you see a lot of people going up and down those stretches, it's time to move on, because the odds of you coming in behind that person and catching fish are going to be pretty slim, unless you've just got something completely unique that you're doing. Now, you've heard a lot of it. People talk about they get in and mix it up with people in heavy fishing pressure situations, and they do something a little bit different. Yeah, that'll work. You can sometimes have a different bait or a hot color, or you can downsize. But most of the time what happens is, if you've got an area that does not have the cover that can sustain heavy fishing pressure, you'll have 90% of the guys not catch them, and maybe 10% of the guys catch them. Maybe the guys that are like guarding a little sweet spot, or they were there first and they caught them early, or they got a little key bait, something like that. Guys, one of the things that I can give you advice that to help do better on areas that have heavy fishing pressure is, first of all, try to find different areas. I mean, if you've got an area that's getting a lot of fishing pressure, those fish are going to be super sensitive, super wary. Try to duplicate that somewhere else that doesn't quite have the fishing pressure. And that's what I did today. The first 4 places I went to had boats on them, a lot of boats moving in the area. I was catching all my fish on a jerkbait. And what I did is I started running down the lake, and I got about 5 or 10 miles away from everybody, where I started noticing there wasn't near as many boats. And I started pulling into some places that sort of looked similar to where I had been catching them, and wound up catching a good limit of fish doing that. So that's the first thing that you want to do. If you do decide to fish in an area that, say you just, that's the only place you got, and you want to fish there, the main thing that you have to do, your awareness has to be on high. The awareness for what everybody else is doing. A lot of people say, well, I don't care what everybody else is doing. I just need to focus on the fish. Not in this situation. You need to pay attention to what everybody's doing. Watch and see how people, what they're throwing, the type of baits they're throwing. If they're throwing a moving bait, a slow bait, spinning rod, bait caster. Watch how they're working down an area, the speed, the angle of their cast, their boat positioning. Pay close attention to that. And the only way that you're going to be able to come in behind those people and do well is to do something different with that. You've got to go a 180. I mean, if they're throwing a moving bait, you need to have come through there with a slow bait. If they're coming through, you know, at a certain angle, try coming in at a different angle. Just give those fish a different look. Because a lot of times, if you're forced to fish around heavy fishing pressure, just having your awareness on high is going to be a real key element to that. So anyway, guys, nobody likes to deal with fishing pressure. I can't stand it. I've taken myself away from so many fish over the past 30 years simply to get away from it, because my ideal day on the water is I don't want to see another human being. I don't want to hear a boat. I don't want to see a boat. Nothing. But that just doesn't happen in our fishing much anymore. So we sort of have to deal with it, which I'm sure I'll have to deal with it tomorrow as well. So anyway, I hope that helps you guys out. I'll give you guys the update tomorrow night when I get off the water. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see y'all later.